Good afternoon, Virginia. Good afternoon, Frederick County, Winchester. This is Dana, Charlie, and Scott. We are the 3% of Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries. And we're here today. Today is the 22nd of April. It's the day after the yes vote, no vote, now what vote here in Virginia. And we had some thoughts and ideas about what's going on. So before we do that, I just want to point you out to our page. This is Mountain MTN PATS.com. Folks, this is where you can find all of our videos. This is where our podcast sign up is. We're actually looking for people to do the 250th anniversary with us and be a political, not a political figure, a patriotic figure, and come on and tell us about how great this country is in our 250th anniversary. So make sure you sign up and let us know if you want to be a part of that. And we also want to thank everybody that was out there with us yesterday while we were out at the polling booths doing what we were doing to try to save the state of Virginia. And so I'm going to turn it over to Charlie, and he's going to get us started on what we thought and what we took away from our yes, no redistricting vote. So, Charlie, it's all yours.
Thanks, Dana. What we want to talk about today, we'd like to kind of analyze what happened yesterday. And my first reaction from yesterday was, oh, crap. And Dana and I were talking, and then we just had a conversation with Scott also. We need to take a look at what happened, and then we need to consider why is that important and what does it mean, and look at how can we make a purse out of this sow's ear that we've been given yesterday, and how to what we need to do is next, or for the rest of the season up until November, the midterm election.
Make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, so it's so what, now what?
Mm-hmm.
And to start it off with some facts, some specifics. Dana, I know you've been talking to some folks to get some accurate numbers. So we'll take a bit of a look to see where it possibly could be something that went wrong with the election, or maybe not. Maybe we just we'll have to assume that the numbers are correct. We don't know at this point. But then we've got some facts that Dana can lay out for us and go from here. So Dana, can you give us some of those numbers?
I'd be glad to. Thanks, Charlie. First of all, folks, you know that probably by now that it was, now this is funny because we got home last night. It was off by a point or two. But we had this was this morning, 1,544,072 people voted yes. 1,544,000. The no's were 1,463,073 said no. Now, when they finished the final numbers, it was a difference of about 3%. So what we were looking at is how do we get to those numbers? Well, early in person was about 35%. Those are the people that started 45 days early and went in and cast their ballot like a good Virginian or a good patriotic American should. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, you have a voice. We found that 1,076,000 people actually went in. And according to those numbers, since the beginning of this, they said that 53% of those were yes. Now, we also know that any ballots that come in to the early voting, those votes start getting counted a week before. So I'm just letting you know that that's how the system is supposed to work. Now, the early by mail is what really is also what triggered me. I think the numbers will probably come out right. But the early by mail, 10% of the voting, 298,157 votes came in early by mail. So that was for the total. Well, 72% of that of that 298,000 was a yes vote. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, if I look at all of the numbers, I mean, we don't have a 50-50 or a 49-51 or a 52-48, whatever. We have a 72% yes. Now we do know also, and I'm going to get to the Youngkin thing in a second. Um, on election day, 53% were yeses, were no's, and 47% were yeses. So the people that went out to the polls actually yesterday had the no vote up by 6 points. So when you look at these, things are a little bit off to me. Now I do know a few years back, talking with uh, our election integrity person for the 6th district, that when they opened up the borders a few years ago, and we had millions of people come through. A lot of people were allowed to get driver's licenses. You guys hear about the CDL licenses and people can't speak English and so forth. Well, there was a systematic alien verification report or entitlement report that was supposed to be done. And what that means is if somebody is actually receiving an entitlement, then they can pretty much track that person back to not being a legitimate citizen. And an illegitimate citizen cannot vote or is not supposed to vote in our local or national elections. What Youngkin did is he actually, first off, there's no way to prove, okay, what way people vote because we have a secret ballot law here in Virginia, so you can't see how people voted. You can't go after people. But what Youngkin did is he wrote an order that wouldn't make the licenses look different. So originally they were trying to do something where the licenses would look different so we would know whether somebody was a citizen of the United States or not. So when you look at 72% of the mail-in ballots that came in and the fact that we didn't set everything up correctly to begin with the 90 days and then the 45 days, and then Tazewell, where the judge said that you couldn't do this. And then the Supreme Court came out and said, well, we're not going to make a decision until afterwards. We figured it would be really important to lay a few things out for people so you understood kind of what was going on. How was that, Charlie? Did I break it down well enough?
Good, good. Yeah, yeah. So, um, so why is all this important? Wh what does it mean to when we look at these numbers, we can make an assumption. One assumption would be, what is it? Suppose, assume they're right. So what does that mean to our future? What's going on to make any corrections? Suppose they're wrong, and what's going to happen? Who's going to go after what? How are we going to have accountability? Um, when we have an election system that the Democrats have said for years, there is no cheating.
Right.
Everything's fine.
That's what
Uh,
Pelosi said this week.
Now they're saying, well, the Republicans are going to cheat because the
Right.
system
Exactly.
doesn't work.
Which is
They want it both ways, um, and who knows what the truth is. But what does it mean to us now that we're looking at potentially having a 10-to-1 setup um, for our districts in favor of the Democrats?
let me do it this way. Scott, why don't you give the negatives and then I'll flip it on the other side and tell you what I came up with on the positives. What would happen, Scott, on a 10-to-1 here?
Why do I get the negatives? Well,
Because I know you speak your mind.
I pulled up the VPAP
Right.
website, and I'm going through these because if you look at the map, I mean it's all red other than a couple counties and cities. But let's take Appomattox County for example. 5,872 people said no. 80% of the county voted no.
Mm-hmm.
Augusta County, 78.17% voted no. Bath County, 81.7%. Bedford, 79%, Bland 87%, on and on and on. But then when you get to our county, Frederick, we're down to 65. And the reason we're down to 65 is because all those people from Northern Virginia are moving here and bringing that liberal garbage with them and voting it. Because you look at the city of Winchester, they overwhelmingly went for it. That's the thing. We've got these cities. We got Fairfax, Alexandria, Prince William, Arlington. They're the ones that tell the rest of the state what they're going to do. And then you have Roanoke, Richmond, Chesapeake,
Norfolk.
Charlottesville. They're all voting with Northern Virginia, which sways everything. But but the negatives here, and what Charlie says, where does this go? And think on this: all the crap that we're dealing with now with our legislature here in Virginia, the anti 2A, the meddling in the education system. The law that says you can't say anything bad about Muslims or it's a crime, those types of things. All these leftist leaning bills that we're getting stuck with on the state level. Now they redistrict Virginia so that they can make it fair and stop the Republicans from taking over so we can have Democratic control. They're going to, the guy came to me yesterday when I was working the polls when you were gone. Well, tell me what's really behind this. I said, what's really behind this is they want to do what they're doing to Virginia on a federal level. So if they can get the increased people in the if they can turn it all blue, so to speak, which I don't think we should be calling the Democrats blue. The Democrats are red. We need to reverse those colors on the map because they're all communists. But they're wanting to do on a grand scale nationally what they're doing here in Virginia, which is why they want to change the numbers. And James Carville the other day said it plain as simple, plain as day. They're going to get away from what is that? The filibuster. They're going to do away with the filibuster. They're going to pack the Supreme Court with 13 justices. They're going to make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states, so that gives them 4 more senators. They're going to run roughshod over this country, and there's not a thing anybody can do about it to stop them. And you've got all these mealy-mouthed little Republicans there in the House and the Senate now who won't say boo to a scarecrow because they're afraid of offending somebody. I heard John Thune is trying to bury the SAVE Act. Anna Paulina,
of course he is.
What's her name? Anna Paulina
Luna.
Right, there you go. Thank you.
She
from
came
Florida.
out with 2 sentences after 2 weeks.
She's wanting to put parts of the SAVE Act into the FISA bill. But
where's the SAVE Act? Where's the FISA?
But House leadership doesn't want to do that. They want to work with the Democrats and hammer out FISA, which I think they need to get rid of FISA anyway, because it's just a way for them to spy on us. And they're running roughshod on us, and we don't know anything about it.
That's what they did on Trump.
It's just one thing after another. I was a correctional officer for 36 years, and as of July 1st, I'm going to be a criminal in this state, because I own weapons and I have 30-round magazines and 18-round magazines for my guns. I'm going to be a criminal. I think that is just a travesty. I worked in a jail. I worked around criminals. There's a criminal mindset. I don't have that criminal mindset, but yet they want to make me a criminal for doing what the Constitution tells me shall not be infringed, which still blows my mind. I know I'm rambling, but
you're right on.
It amazes me the number of people that bought this garbage hook, line, and sinker. Well, we're trying to stop Trump, and got Barry Obama on there. Oh, Virginia, you got to vote for got to get rid of the Republicans. You got to stop the Republicans. Stop the steal. Hey, Virginia, come on out and vote for this thing. I'm just sick of it. Fed up.
These are the same people that didn't want this 5 years ago.
Yeah, and Abigail. Oh, gerrymandering is bad. We shouldn't be doing that. Oh, let's do all gerrymander now. I'm the governor. You thought I was a moderate, but I'm really just a communist in sheep's clothing. And everybody's going, "Oh, I can't believe I voted for her. She said she's a moderate." Give me a break.
Yeah, sorry. she was a wolf in sheep's clothing.
But you put it so well, because the way you are right now is what most Republicans are doing. Charlie, what do you think is going to happen, Charlie?
Well, what she's showing is the it's all right to redistrict and whenever you want and
This is
gerrymander.
only temporary, guys, to 2030.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
well, and the Supreme Court,
When is a government program or a government rule ever
Temporary.
been temporary? I
yeah,
mean,
right.
you and prime example, what is it, the Haitians that were here under that temporary visa thing? And Trump said, okay, it's temporary, let's get rid of it. And the court says, nope, nope, you can't do that because even though it's temporary, we're used to it now, so we're going to keep it.
Now it's permanent. Yeah,
Salazar's doing
give
that in Florida too, trying to work people in that have already been here. But that's kind of where we're heading. Charlie, what do you think? Because I have a little different spin on. I hear all this, but there's another thing I'm thinking that's
well
going to wake
before
people up.
before you give us
Right. I want you to tell everybody what you
a,
think.
a different perspective, what I want to mention is that uh, one to take the Carville approach only
Mhm.
from the other side is what we should do is starting to redistrict every red state to be in favor of gerrymandered uh, districts uh, for partisan reasons because the Supreme Court says you can redistrict for partisan reasons.
Not the way
So
the forefathers wanted it.
yeah, yeah. Um, so and another thing is what Spanberger is doing is saying it's okay to overturn the Second Amendment.
Hmm.
Also that it's okay to overturn the First Amendment.
Hmm.
Now she's uh, able to overturn these, and I like what Scott said is that, or maybe you said that, is that it's going to take that thinking into Congress and try and do the same things, and they're doing this uh, to make sure that MAGA doesn't continue, that Trump doesn't continue, that all of this, the negative things that come out of it, better be motivating to the Republicans, the conservatives,
Hmm.
the constitutionalist folks in this country to get out and vote next time. Because if you don't, um, you are going to be subject to the tyranny, to the American Marxism, as they put it, that they think is better than what we have now, what the framers said, and they're making the Constitution into a laughing stock,
Hmm.
a set of suggestions, not laws, and the Constitution is our um, where our laws come from, and the rule of law is based on the Constitution,
Yes.
and the Constitution is based on God's law and a logical translation of it into man's law, and they're doing everything they can to do away with it. And it's like things are running amok right now,
They
and
are.
so that leads us to say, well, now what? What can we do starting from now to November? Because November becomes critically important in the sense that if the Democrats take over the House and the Senate nationally, Trump is gone,
And so are we.
and so are we. And they've already demonstrated the revenge that they're going to have on us. I mean, they've said it outright. When we get done with getting Trump out and putting him in jail, we're coming
We're
after
coming after
you.
you.
And the Second Amendment loss in Virginia that Scott was describing is going to be painfully true.
Yeah.
So we have to fight. And I know there's some lawsuits that are, I think 3 lawsuits have been filed against the outcome of the 21st election on the referendum. Um, I hope they work. I hope they're able to prevent this thing from happening. But we need to be ready. And Dana, you mentioned early on that people stood down, people relaxed once Trump was elected.
Yeah.
People relaxed once Youngkin was elected.
Yeah.
Um, it it doesn't make sense, And now we have a lot of Republicans in elected places that aren't Republicans, or at the very least, they're not conservative. Some are, a majority, I assume, are, but there's a heck of a lot of them in there that won't stand up when the going gets rough.
Right.
And I find it disheartening, but I also find it motivating to get out and do something.
I'm
Now,
going to add something, Charlie.
go ahead.
Our forefathers they foresaw all of this. I mean, they really did. And as you know, that we're working with somebody right now to not only review and break down the entire Constitution, but be able to put one in each county so that we can hold people accountable, so they're not pushing from the top down and tyranny. We're able to work as we the people from the bottom up. But we are a Christian nation. And part of this is the fact that you're never supposed to mix politics and religion. Well, that's not true. The entire moral fiber of this entire country was built on biblical principles. And a lot of this, and I'm going to take it out. If you're a pastor or you're a minister or you're a priest, you don't tell your people, hey, we have a vote going on right now on whether or not we should redistrict and whether read it and there are the pros and the cons of it. Well, there are, if you're my shepherd as a pastor or a minister, it's up to you to tell us not how to vote, but what that vote or what that actual piece of legislation or what they're telling us actually means. What are the repercussions, the biblical repercussions of them not telling us? So what do people do? Well, they go to church and the pastor fills them with all of this biblical stuff and then sends them home and doesn't say, you know what? It says here in the Bible that abortion is wrong. It says here murder is wrong. It says to respect your mother and your father. Well, don't do that. They're not letting people know what's going on. And I think we're in for a real quick revival that's coming our way as well.
Dana, what I would say, you said not telling them how to vote. I think they should tell them how to vote.
That's up to the pastor.
I,
But a lot of pastors are scared to death that they're going to lose that $5 or $10 that people don't have right now. Okay, or their nonprofit status. I don't know what your problem is, pastor or reverend or minister or father. Okay, I only have one father in heaven. But it's not about the money. And if we end up as a communist or a socialist nation, you might as well close your church doors anyway. They ain't got
yeah.
anything. And we realized that about 5 years ago with Mountain Patriots. It was just a matter of, hey, I can work my tail off and I can make money and take a vacation, stay to myself and not pay attention to what's going on. Or I see where we're about to go over the cliff, so I better do everything that I possibly can right now to not only save myself, but especially to save the children and the people that are coming after. So we were willing to put our time, talent, and treasure into this and bring things like this to you to get you activated into saving this country. And I have a little spin on this. Okay, I'm looking at this, and a lot of people, Charlie and Scott, they're looking at this, going, "Oh my gosh, we lost another one." Well, no, to me, this is all exposure. A while back, I would have thought like most people did, and thought, "Oh my gosh, we're going to lose everything." And I'm thinking, almost everything, I don't care whether you like Trump, his personality or not, everything he has told us would happen has happened. Nobody is awake right now because Trump never came into office. People are awake right now because he came in 2016, 2017, and started flipping things over and saying, hey, do you realize the fake news is the CIA that's telling you all this wrong stuff? And then we started doing our own research. So this is what I came up with my research. And I've got all kinds of things on redistricting and all the things here. First of all, folks, we realize again that illegal immigration and what they've done to take all of our money and all of our taxes and everything else away from us has happened. and it's trying to be turned back over. We've been taught that we need to be energy independent. If you look at Europe, they're all going to run. They're still chasing the new greens, the green new scam. Okay, most of those countries are going to go belly up. We know that we've been sold out. We know that they gave our uranium away, which is what they're going to find out. But you know what? This is what it showed me yesterday. A lot of people went to sleep. Now they're going to wake up between now and November. And you now see it. You now actually see it, what it's actually doing to your life, your wallet. The gas prices right now, folks, are not because of Trump. It has nothing to do with them. That's a world economy thing. Okay. And they will go back down. What's going to happen from this? We know that the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, is not coming anytime soon. Okay. That's my name for him now. John, it ain't coming anytime now soon. All right. Not coming now soon, anytime soon. But we're learning about the central bank. We're learning about the money. We're learning about fiat currency. But what we're doing is we're learning also about our votes and how much it matters. Number one, there'll be more people out there voting. Number two, we'll end up cleaning the rolls. And I really think that what's going to happen is there's going to end up being an order somewhere between now and November that cleans up the voter rolls, whether Thune and the Republicans, because they're just as guilty, folks. I'm telling you now, they're all in bed together. Same bird, different, same feathers, different, same bird, different feathers. But I see the ballots. I don't see them. I see maybe having the machines, but I see everybody as having to be a citizen. That's number one. And one of these things, like I brought up earlier at the beginning, is a systemic alienation verification act that you're taking. Well, let me back up a little bit and say people who are non-citizens are not allowed to have bank accounts. Okay, well, or loans. I mean, there's where our tax money is going. So I see the voting structure changing. I see people actually getting out there and being part of what's going on. I see eventually paper ballots. I see one-day voting that's coming because people are finally to the point of they're tired of running back and forth to the polls and arguing about, let's just fix it the way the framers originally did it. Charlie, what do you think?
Well, I wanted to ask you about one of the things you said was about the SAVE Act.
Mm-hmm.
The SAVE Act should have been in place by January in order to be able to be effective. How are some of these things going to happen that you just suggested are going to happen before the November election?
Okay. Well, tomorrow night we have the pleasure and we're being honored by a guy by the name of Mark Cook, who actually helped write the 17-page draft on election integrity and how to take our voting back. So I'm going to tell you first off, I got this from MJ Truth, and I don't have time to pull it up, so I'll just read it. He's been doing a lot of research on the SAVE Act, and if it passes, it's loaded. If it doesn't pass, Trump's going to do something. The bill primarily amends the Voter Registration Act of 1993. I want to emphasize this was truly when voting in America began to rapidly decline was in 1993. There's going to be a documentary proof of United States citizenship for voter registration. Do you know that if you're an election official and they put this thing in, if you're an election official and you give somebody the right to vote and you were an election official, you can be held accountable for not checking that citizenship, even if they are a citizen? Okay, so it's going to take 4 to 7 months to put this in, Charlie. States can no longer accept or process any voter registration application online, by mail, DMV, public assistance agencies, or in person for federal elections under the applicant provides specific proof of citizenship at the time of application. You must provide the fact that you're a citizen. And there's a lot of Democrats out there right now that are telling people that women and people of color are too stupid to go get a birth certificate. Give me a break. I mean, you can't don't mess with somebody's self-esteem and call somebody out that you have absolutely no clue. Everybody's just as smart if they decide to be. Acceptable documents are limited. For example, a U.S. valid passport, certified birth certificate paired with a photo ID, naturalization certificate, or certain military or tribal IDs that explicitly show U.S. birth. You can't just use just a driver's license. There's major changes to registration methods online. Voters updating the the registration for new addresses, name change, party switch, also need to provide proof again. So there's a whole lot of things that are in the Save America Act, Charlie and Scott, but there's a few things that can be done immediately. The mail-in ballots.
Good.
Okay, there's a special way of doing mail-in ballots. You have to prove your citizenship, and I think a lot of that's going to become an executive order. I also think somewhere along the line, the Supreme Court is going to overturn what's going on in Virginia. That's just my thought process. Okay, seeing how everything has worked out over the last 6 or 7 years of being called a conspiracy theorist, it's kind of worked out. But we're going to see a lot of changes come up before this election and what's going to happen to our Virginia stuff that's going to change a lot of things. And I think we're going to catch a lot of people along the way. So I think this is a little bit of a setup, whether it was meant to. If we lost, if we won, people would go back. If we won, the no's won, we would go back to sleep. If the yeses won, that woke us all back up again to get back into the game, like when Trump came into office.
And we need to do our part in making sure they wake up and stay awake.
Absolutely. And you got to do it from the pulpits. You got to do it in your churches. You got to do it in the stores. You got to talk to people. And don't be afraid of what are you afraid of?
What do you got to lose?
What do you not? You don't have anything. If you're going to lose your life, you're going to lose it anyway. If you're not a Christian, you're going to lose it anyway. I know where I'm going after this. I'm pretty sure. But I think that there's a lot of things. There's going to be penalties. There's going to be civil lawsuits for things that aren't done correctly. And I think we're going to see Trump come out. Now, I'm going to share something that it's a friend of mine. Mountain Patriots is pretty plugged in. And if you're not part of Mountain Patriots, it might behoove you to come out and check out what we're doing, because we actually love this country and the people that are with it. That live here, and we don't care what side of the aisle you're on. If your house is burning down, we're going to go in and save you. This is what Donald Trump has to say. A rigged election took place last night in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. All day long, Republicans were winning. The spirit was unbelievable until the very end, of course, when there was a massive mail-in ballot drop. Now, I don't know whether there was a massive mail-in ballot drop. I can't prove it, but that's what he's saying. Where have I heard this before? And the Democrats eked out another crooked victory. 6-5 goes to 10-1. I don't know why they came out. The yeses came out saying it wasn't fair, Scott. If it was, what's fair? Is it more fair 6-5 and they already had the advantage, or 10-1? I mean, it's the way it is. It says 6-5 goes 10-1, and yet in the presidential election in November, it was very close to a 50-50 split. In addition to everything else, the language on the referendum was purposely unintelligible, which is true, and deceptive. Nobody understood what the language meant. We had to explain it to people. As everyone knows, I am an extraordinarily brilliant person, and even I had no idea what the hell that they were talking about in the referendum, and neither do they. Let's see if the courts will fix this travesty of Justice President Donald J. Trump. So Republicans, I'm not going to say MAGA, I'm going to say conservatives are all over this. We're paying attention. Scott, what do you think?
Can you hear me? Because I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yeah, I can hear you just
Yeah, I
fine.
can hear you
For
both.
some reason, the volume dropped way off on the phone, so it's hard for me to hear. But there is one bright spot in this whole pile of
You're
horse
awake.
pucky. Um, $64 million was poured into this state by Soros and his cronies.
A lot of money.
It took they, from what I understand, it was they outspent us $9 to 1, but they still only garnered 51%, and 49% of us said no. It took $64 million
Great
of
point.
out of state money to come in here, but they still only got a percentage and a half percent over on this thing.
Great
So
point.
it's not, first thing is they need to get rid of all that money that comes in here. I think that's a travesty,
That's
but
coming from the NGOs and so forth.
they can spend all this money, and they were too afraid to even, they should have put on the ballot a picture of the maps. Did you notice in all their political campaigns, they never showed the map? They didn't want anybody to see it. And let's face facts. You and I both know there are uninformed voters everywhere. They didn't take time to look. And I know that we had this stuff out there,
It
but
kept getting
a lot of
stolen.
people don't take time to look. They didn't take time to see it. They heard the word fair. They heard the word Trump, and they just said, "Oh, I'm going to glom onto that." But it took $64 million of outside money to sway this thing, and they still only beat us by a percent and a half or whatever it was.
Great
And
point.
that map that we had at the polls, we were showing people the map of the 10 to 1. The tendrils come out of Fairfax County. I think four different directions. It comes
Lobster
out
claw.
halfway across the state, where they wrapped in red counties, and the high population of Fairfax made them blue.
Yep.
So yeah, it was a travesty, and now Virginia is the most gerrymandered state in the union.
I
And
have to
all
share
your
this with you.
congressional districts, all the people, if it doesn't change, everyone that gets elected under this new scheme,
Yeah.
I heard this, I forget who it was that said this yesterday. Every elected representative will be within a 40-mile area of each other. So
Mhm.
all these people in Northern Virginia, what is
We'll
that
call our
way
shots.
down there on the end of Virginia? Is it what, Tazewell or wherever that
Yep.
the
Tidewater?
county way out there furthest on the end by Kentucky? Somebody in Fairfax is
Oh,
going to
Knows
be
how they
their
live.
voice. That's just ridiculous.
Let me share something that happened yesterday before we get out of here. And I found this fascinating. I had two dads with their kids. Okay. One of them had a little boy, one of them had a little girl.
at the
And
poll.
at the polls, I was at the polls yesterday and I had my big map up there. And he came over and he says, "Okay, now I want you to look at this map. Okay. Now look how this one is, and look how this one is. And then look at this says 6 to 5, and this one says 10 to 1. Now, which one is more fair?" And this is a 6 year old. Well, that one's more even. That's why we vote. We want to make sure that we hear both sides, but it's got to be equal and it's got to be fair. And I was really fascinated the way the father took 5 minutes to explain to his child, and the other dad took a couple more minutes to explain to the children what was going on. Then I had another mom come over and look at the map and where it was blue over there at the corners and everything else, and explain to her son, who was a Boy Scout, what was actually going on. She had questions, which I answered for her, and answered her questions with questions. Well, how do you feel about this? Which way? And I said, we had this other father that did this. I answered her questions with questions, and she said to her son, "Well, what do you think we should do?" He says, "I think we've got to say no." And I thought that was fascinating. And that came from a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old. So
Yeah.
even kids get it. You can't teach people intelligence. Okay, they've just got to take the time to critically think, because I don't think people realize that what they're voting for right now is to their own demise. You are giving
Yep.
away every
Yep.
freedom, and you can't say anything, you can't do anything. And I'll share this with you too. We did something the other day where one of our buddies that works for VCDL, a Mountain Patriot, sent in an article about the Second Amendment to the newspaper. Is the newspaper allowed to decide whether or not they like the content of what you have to say
Well, they're a private
based
company.
on the First Amendment? Now, they
They're
put in a why we can't have guns argument, but they couldn't put in an argument of here's the Constitution that says it shall not be infringed. So,
Yeah.
I mean, folks, we're giving away our rights here. But Charlie, do you have any, or Scott, do you have any last thoughts to this? Because I think this is a nice wake-up call. I want to invite everybody tomorrow night to Millwood to come out and hear Mark speak about how the machines work and how we do this. Do you have any final thoughts, Scott?
I just think it's time that people need to stand up and wake up. And unfortunately, we've been asleep at the wheel for so long. And you would think that after November, Virginians would have woke up, especially after they've gotten all these taxes, the dog walking tax, the Uber tax, all these other taxes are piling on us, getting rid of your gas-powered leaf blower. You would have thought they would have awakened out of slumber and would have stood up against this. So I don't know how much it's going to take for people to stand up and start paying attention. I just don't.
My final thought is what happened yesterday was not because of the Democrats. It was because of the Republicans that did not come out and vote. And if all the Republicans came out and vote, it would have been a resounding rejection of the gerrymandering.
Yep.
But they didn't. So I'm sorry on behalf of Republicans that did come out and vote, but there are hundreds of thousands that didn't come out to vote.
Right.
And shame on them.
And you had 45 days that the Democrats want for early voting, and you couldn't come out in 45 days to vote. Come on. And the same thing goes with the pastors. It's time, pastors and ministers, to get out there in the pulpit and let your sheep know what's going on. So, folks, that's our redistricting episode today. What was won, what was lost, and what's to come. And we want your input on this as well. So make sure that you check back with our Mountain Patriots Educational Ministries. We've got a lot of these going on. Charlie, do you want to take us out today with the prayer, or would you like me to? It's up to you.
I'll do that.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us for our Mountain Patriots update. Charlie?
Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this beautiful world and this country that you have given us, and for the patriots who are willing to care for it. Thank you for inspiring our founders to create this beautiful republic. Please help us to keep it as the aspiring place to live. Please give us the wisdom to do the right things, the common sense to judge wisely, the energy to never give up, and your unending grace in which we take comfort. Jesus, in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Folks, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. Make sure you go to MTN PATS for all the updates. We've got everything up there on what's going on, when it's going on, how it's going on. Make sure you make comments. And most importantly, if you can help donate to our cause, it really helps us keep this thing going. Most importantly, comment and share this with everybody that's out there. And we want to thank you for taking the time. And as we always say at the end of every Mountain Patriots broadcast, this one
is in the books.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.